In the Old Testament, there was a man who faced 3 challenges which caused great suffering, not only physically, but also spiritually. This man was Job. In approximately the 22nd century before Christ, Job and his family lived in the land of Uz, in the desert east of what is now Palestine. Job was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil, as noted in the first chapter of the Old Testament book of Job. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, all living in a happy family with love and harmony. What about his wealth? Well, he had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 pair of oxen, and 500 donkeys. When translated into modern U.S. currency, Job's wealth was worth $1.25 million. Thousands of years ago, there were probably not many millionaires, so Job might well be looked upon as the richest man in the East at that time. One day, Satan went to God to slander Job, saying the reason that Job feared God was because it made him rich. Satan said, if God withdrew his blessings and protection, Job would turn around in his faith and actually curse God to his face. In order to prove to Satan that Job was not that kind of person, God allowed Job to be tested by Satan. Soon, Job lost all his wealth and his children due to sudden disasters. Even his wife failed to comfort him. Rather, she became utterly frustrated and scornfully rebuked him, saying, "Are you still maintaining your integrity? Curse God and die." When 3 of Job's friends, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, heard that disasters were coming to him, they met together and went to visit Job. When they saw the miserable condition Job was in, they wept aloud, tore their robes, and sprinkled dust on their heads. Then they sat on the ground for 7 days and 7 nights without saying a word. Feeling comforted, Job expressed a bit of his grievance and cursed on his birthday. Unexpectedly, they started to argue, and the 3 friends began to teach Job lessons. Although there were differences in what they said, they all criticized Job from a traditional perspective, thinking that his sufferings were caused by his sins and by offending God, and these calamities were his punishment. Job had 3 rounds of dialogue with his 3 friends, and then he gave a monologue asking God to answer his question, why had these calamities befallen him, a man who feared God and shunned evil? After that, a young man named Elihu arrived unknowingly. He delivered 4 speeches mainly to refute and condemn Job for being self-righteous. He advised Job to give glory to God. Job did not reply. Finally, out of a storm, God answered Job's questions twice. As we've shared, Job faced 3 difficult challenges. First, through the disasters, Satan wanted Job to think that God had abandoned him. Second, Job's wife said angry words to make him expect that he had no way out. And third, his friends taught him to believe that he was guilty and was being punished by God. But God did not respond to these 3 challenges accordingly. In the storm, God first asked Job to pay attention to the wonderful and unpredictable universe he had created. Then, through the description of hippos and crocodiles, God pointed out that it was impossible for people to fully understand his plans and arrangements. As a result, Job humbly accepted God's answers and was no longer in doubt. He fell down before God and said, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you." God later used real and visible blessings to prove that he was with Job. In the later part of Job's life, God restored what Job had lost and even more. Job had doubled the number of sheep, camels, oxen, and donkeys, and his wife gave birth to 7 sons and 3 daughters. After this, Job lived 140 years. He saw his children and their children to the 4th generation. After Job's death, he was buried in a place on the southeastern tip of the Arabian Peninsula, in what is now the small country of Oman. Job's cemetery has become a tourist attraction. It proves to the world that Job did exist as a real person. God did not tell Job why he encountered this series of disasters. And Job did not pursue further. He was satisfied when he knew from God that God was still in charge of the universe he created. This is a great reminder to us and brings us great comfort when we encounter difficulties, even challenges like Job, perhaps, and have doubts in our hearts. Is God still with me? Is there no way out for me? Am I being punished by God? At that very time, we can take heart and remember God's reminder to Job. God is forever the ruler of everything, and He will never abandon us. The challenges that God allows to come to us help us to know God and get closer to Him. As Job said to God later, "My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you."